one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We haven't heard from Jerry. I don't know if she's in or out. What, Kathy, would you take the minutes tonight, please? Kathy? Oh. So we have Kathy, we have Jody, we have Lee, we have Bob, and Jerry's missing. First thing we need to do is approve the minutes of last meeting. Does anyone have any questions about the minutes from last meeting? From last meeting? Jody, you're all right? No questions? Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from last meeting?
So,
Bob's got a motion. Okay. Have a second?
Second.
Jody? Any further discussion?
Hey Lee, wouldn't you just do that in the next state meeting instead of a special meeting?
You can do it either way. It's just as easy to do it now, and then we'll take these minutes on to the next meeting. Do it either way. Won't take but a second anyway. Roll call vote, Kathy?
No.
Jody?
Yes.
Yes. Bob?
yes.
Do what? Well, Kathy just approved the minutes. One of the three is on that. Okay, what do you want to do, Kathy? Carry these over for further discussion?
No, I'm just voting no on them. There was things on there that I don't remember happening at that meeting,
Okay,
so
well,
I
we
have to
don't-
vote no.
With Thor, we don't have a quorum, so we'll carry these over to the next regular meeting. Okay, next business is display at McGuffey Park. Bob Frazier. Bob's not here tonight, right, Bob? Nope. Bob's not here, so we'll table that one. Next one's a new mobile home on 872 Claysville. James and Debbie Brady. Is anybody here? Any Brady people? Okay, this is a situation where, where did it go? You done? Yep. This is a situation where we don't really have to act on this. It's more of a notification to the township of what's going on. So it's very simple, we just send it right back to them. So we're just returning. And next one's application for subdivision at 24 Verner Drive, Claysville, Pennsylvania. Donna Verner. Donna?
Yeah,
Okay.
I had Widmers do that, and everything, and we're at the point now to where I can have each parcel, perk tested and stuff, and before I went to that expense of getting that done and everything, they wanted you to look at those blueprints and make sure that we're okay to this point, and then I'll go to the expense of having each section perk tested and everything.
Yeah, I think the primary question was to make sure that they're not landlocked, that they have
Right,
access.
right, we have the right of way on there coming out the front and everything, Widmer's did it, so there's nothing landlocked in it. There's 7 parcels.
Does anybody else have any questions?
No, I looked at it.
Bob, you had a chance to.
I looked at it.
Yeah, any questions?
Is there any stipulation in the township as far as how many families can use a right-of-way, private right-of-way?
Not that I'm aware of.
You think
I mean,
maybe
if there's none,
No, I looked at it with Widmer.
Okay. You want to put one?
And it's big parcels except for where the building is and the, you know.
And the right of way kind of goes up the middle. The existing, follows the existing driveway to provide access for those upper parcels.
No, it comes in the entrance and goes along the bottom to the back parcels. but the right of way, there's already an existing
existing
right of
right,
way
yeah.
for the first part.
Okay. Buddy Myers and I know that area very well.
Yep,
I do too, by now.
Well, that was Buddy's grandfather.
His grandfather, correct.
now that was the old Myers farm originally.
Jesse Myers.
Yes.
My grandpa.
Okay, so no, we don't have any further action to be required? Where are we?
You'd have to recommend it if it's subdivision to the board to be approved. They're subdividing, creating a new parcel.
Oh, that's right, the green two parcels. Nice one. Anyone want to make a motion to approve this
Well,
then?
Lee, I don't think it's complete. She's just wanting us to look at it and make
Oh,
sure
yeah.
everything's in line. She hasn't done the perk
I have to do
testing
the
or-
perk testing
Yeah,
and
right,
stuff
Right.
still yet. I just didn't wanna go through the expense of getting all perk tests and then.
Yeah.
it's-
You had some preliminary
it's-
input before you moved anything forward.
Right.
Okay.
Public water and sewage doesn't come?
No,
down
it
that
doesn't,
far?
it stops at the,
Oh,
gas
okay.
station. Can I see it?
Yes. It's number 3 on the applications. In the minutes. Right across from the motorcycle shop. So we need
We're out of space.
We're just providing a sketch plan, we're providing feedback, it doesn't sound like anybody has any, so it seems
Is there any
fine
further
for
comments?
proceed.
We'll just table it. So, if you like to, if you want to stay for the rest of the meeting, would you like to go?
Oh, I'll stay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, we decide on to number 4. I have a couple of comments to make. This is the township news that comes out to the township once a month. There's always a lot of good information in here about what's going on throughout the state. And there's an article in here about the new medical marijuana law impacts township zoning and personnel. Basically, what they've done is they've divided the state up into 6 different sections. There's a little map in here where it shows how it's broke down. I understand we had a couple of people that are interested in getting into growing cannabis, distributing cannabis. I'm not sure what it was we were talking about. There's, like I say, 6 different regions, and all these regions are broke down. Our region, which is our southwestern region, Region 5, is slated to have 5 dispensary permits and 2 grower processing permits. It's my understanding from reading this that each one of these dispensaries or growing processes can break down into smaller sections to support that. Great deal about zoning considerations. If your township has not already made changes to zoning ordinances to address the new law, land use, Here are some items for the Board of Supervisors and Planning Commission to consider. Look at where in your township it makes good sense for grower processors and dispensary facilities to be located, and whether changes need to be made to your zoning ordinance as a result. For example, does your township need to revise its zoning definitions or boundaries to ensure compliance with the Medical Marijuana Act's zoning limitations? Are the proposed changes to your zoning ordinance to accommodate these new uses consistent with your township comprehensive plan? Thirdly, do changes need to be made to your requirements for such things as buffers, setbacks, hours of operations and parking, so as not to discriminate against growers, processors, and dispensaries, and in favor of other existing smaller uses? Remember, if your township does not have zoning ordinance, there will be no restrictions on where grower, producers, and dispensary facilities may be located except for schools, daycare, distance buffer imposed on the dispensaries. If your township does not have a zoning ordinance, there is no restrictions on where growers, processors, and dispensary facilities can be located. To help its members as they work through these issues, PSAC has put together simple language that the township can adopt and modify and incorporate into their own zoning ordinances. The document can be found in PSAP Resource Center. It's contact. Basically, what they're saying here is with this new marijuana thing coming through, you need to have a zoning ordinance to take care of it, to restrict it, to you make sure it's put in the right part of the township. And we don't know if anybody will build right here in Donegal Township or not. We don't know how that's going to all break down, but it's kind of like, the gun range. It's just popped right over the other side of the interstate here. For some of you that doesn't mean anything, but for the residents of West Alexander, it gets a little noisy once in a while. Tread has done an excellent job of restricting when those shooting things are going on. Backed off the Tannerite. Is more Tiankoviches down the street here that really make a lot of noise with the Tannerite. If anybody was around here last weekend, they rattled the windows all over the place. But it's just an example of why you need zoning ordinances to cover these kind of things.
And Tankoviches is where?
I think they're right down there by the state line here.
Yeah,
just
right
there
across the state line.
Yeah.
We can't control that.
No.
Just like we can't control an Ohio County grow plant.
Didn't say we could. I didn't say that. I'm just saying that what I was referring to was Tread out in his shooting range, what he has done to quiet down.
What I'm saying is, it doesn't matter. Ohio County can do what they want, and they're right on our doorstep.
That's true. Anyway, just wanted to bring that up. We're going to start right where we left off a couple weeks ago. So Mike,
because of things that were brought up in the past, Mr. Wright brought up the right to farm and how zoning would affect it, and also the Acre Act, how zoning would affect it. I saw on the bill that you did research it, but I don't remember you telling us what the outcome of that was.
Yeah, we discussed it. Looked into the acre, looked into all that. Again, they're correct in the sense that if it's a nuisance, if it's agricultural related, the nuisance laws cannot apply unless it is deemed by the township to imperil the health and safety of the general public. Again, I know, I think it was JD or someone brought up a question, well, I'm sick, or, or I'm allergic to hay, or something to that effect, paraphrasing here. How does that not could I then, claim, okay, that's general? No, my understanding of the act is that it's the general public welfare, it's not specific individual. So it would have to be an extreme case that the effect is incurring has repercussions or is harming the general public as a whole, to where the township could take action. And again, even if there was not zoning, nuisance is not zoning related, so the laws on the book now, there are nuisance laws the township has in the book right now that they would be able to enforce if it got to that level under whether there's acre or not, or the ag security, if it's an ag security. As far as zoning, the impact of zoning though, the issue with some of the questions are, you can't enact zoning laws that interfere or impact or take away the right of farmers or people engaged in agricultural businesses to do that, to sell produce on their property. There are some questions on whether or not someone would stop farming, they abandon that use, and then want to come back and do that. There might be some implications under zoning, but as the way the township's zoned currently, as it's proposed to be zoned, agricultural regulations or agricultural operations, I think is how it's defined, are permitted throughout the township as it is. So even if someone were to stop farming and down the road, assuming that aspect of the zoning ordinance was not changed, they would be permitted to do so. They would not have to do conditional use. It wouldn't be a non-conforming use. Agricultural operations right now, under this proposed draft, and as far as I've seen it, the 4 or 5 that I've been involved in the drafts, that's never been suggested to be changed.
But it can be changed at a future date, though, correct?
It would have to go through the same process. It would have to go through the planning commission, ordinance have to go to Washington County, yes. So it could be, but as it's proposed now, no. And even if it was, you're, once again, still has that protection as a farmer, you're protected unless you were to abandon that use and then.
Well, there was a court case between the state of Pennsylvania, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and the Limerick Township, in which they had taken a farm and they limited the number of, I believe they wanted to do poultry, it was animal, and they said generally if you had to have more than 60 acres to do this, and when it went to court because it was zoned and it was under the zoning, they were not allowed to do it.
Okay.
Even though they were a farm then, they were not allowed to do that. So it actually, agriculture can be restricted.
It can be restricted.
It can be. I
for
understand
future
it's not
uses.
now.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
But we don't know what's gonna happen in the future. No zoning means you can't restrict anything.
Correct.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there any, as a married to a third generation farmer, when the farm changes hands, because it's not necessarily the same ownership, would that make any difference?
No, again, as this is, let's say hypothetically that the zoning changed and it became a non-conforming use, then, no. Even if it changes ownership, it's the use, the non-conforming use attaches to the land. So as long as your husband or your children, if down the road you pass on to your children, as long as they didn't change that use to a use that was not permitted under the zoning, that it doesn't matter, the ownership changed. And as the draft is right now, those agricultural operations, it wouldn't matter, if you changed it, they're permitted throughout.
Could
There's
you
no
tell me,
restrictions.
according to the draft, what the definition of agriculture is? I mean, like if we just mow our farm for hay, is that considered agriculture, but maybe somebody gets sick and we can't have cows? Is that still considered agricultural?
Yes, as long as you're growing crops, hay's a crop. Same thing we do on our farm. We grow hay.
Agricultural production is any farming-related activity, including plowing, tillage, cropping, installation of best management practices, seeding, cultivating, or harvesting for the production of food and fiber products, except commercial logging and timber harvesting.
That wouldn't cover hay.
Sure does. Hay's a crop.
By that definition, that wouldn't go out. Michael, if you need clarification on that question I brought, I do have that out in the deed if you want to get that
What's
paper
that?
on that.
Well,
What I brought up the last time as far as the farm security and what was the other one that I read from the state? I have that on the Jeep if you want me to give it.
Well, I think most farmers would feel more comfortable if it included.
Well, the fact of the matter is, though, there are farmers also that only have cattle do not put up their own hay, purchase their own hay.
It didn't say anything about livestock.
Livestock in that sentence right there. Unless I missed it, and if I did, I apologize, but I didn't hear anything about livestock.
It just says any farming related activity including plowing, tillage, cropping, pesticides, and seeds, cultivating, harvesting for production of food or fiber products except commercial logging and timber harvesting. I think any farming related activity, I mean, come on.
How
if you're
come a tree farm wouldn't be included?
I don't know. I don't know that.
The state has a timbering act, and it probably falls under the timbering act.
So would growing Christmas trees, would that fall under the timber?
No, that would probably fall under the timbering.
Yeah, but that's timber, I'm talking about like a Christmas tree farm.
Yeah, that's what I just asked too, Ed, because I covered Christmas.
I would say that would fall under agricultural. I mean, that's how I would interpret it.
Well,
But it ain't spelled out in there.
on agriculture,
Commercial logging and timber
I've got
harvesting.
a farm covered with horses, and I buy my hay.
Yeah.
Horses are not livestock.
She's
They're not
right.
considered livestock. So, really, when it comes to it, I would never be able to go to cows, because I'm not raising livestock. I know it throws a
No, that's all right.
kind of thing, but that's what I'm saying, you know, I could have, but they're not considered livestock. It's just a tricky wording.
I have another question. In light of what you opened up
It
with,
is.
Let's finish this, I'll come back to that, Ed. Please.
Because I ain't got a cow, a goat, a pig, or a place,
I don't either. All we do is.
and I don't cut my own hay.
Or perhaps you solve it by saying any farming related activity, including but not limited to. And then that opens the door to any farming related activity.
How about the definition this is from the Pennsylvania Right to Farm Act, and this is normal agricultural operations. The definition is the activities, practices, equipment, and procedures that farmers adopt, use, or engage in the production and preparation for market of poultry, livestock, and their products, and in the production, harvesting, and preparation for market or use of agricultural, agronomic, horticultural, silvicultural, and aquacultural crops and commodities, and is not less than 10 contiguous acres in area, less than 10 contiguous acres in area, but has an anticipated yearly gross income of at least 10,000.
I don't think that covers for horses.
So-
Doesn't cover horses.
It
Yeah.
doesn't, it's not.
Horses are
It's
a
recreation.
problem, you know what I mean? They,
Horses are their own critters.
yeah, they,
Yeah, only not gonna eat 'em.
So would we, that definition that was read with an
Except with the addition of, but you can't say equine, you need to say horses. Equine usually, she's right, say it again,
It's recreation.
is recreational.
yes.
What was the last line, Michael, about the 10 grand?
It says less than 10, if it's less than 10 acres,
No, the $10,000.
but it has an anticipated yearly gross income of at least 10,000.
Anticipated?
Yes.
A lot of farmers don't make 10 grand. A lot of farmers lose. Here's the thing. When it comes to farming and agriculture in this township, there should be no restrictions ever. Like, say if it gets passed to third generation. Say third generation doesn't want nothing to do with it, but then they sell it, somebody buys it, that's not the same family, so it could be excluded. It should, if somebody wants to go back to farming, or if it skips a generation, there should be no restrictions or exclusions for farming.
Well, again, the idea behind what's zoned now would be that there are no restrictions. Obviously,
I get that.
I understand we want to clarify the definition. The intent, I assume, of when they put that in was to allow all of it, not knowing the drafter's full intent on that. I would assume that was the intent behind it, and based on the fact that it's a permitted use throughout, I would assume that was what they wanted to. If we clarify that definition, but again, as Kathy brought up, that is subject to change, but that's up to the board, that's up to public vote. that's up, there's hearings in place just like this. Once again, if someone was proposing to take out horses or whatever it might be, or to change part of the zoning to not allow that type of practice, once again, that's where the public would come in and voice their opinion, and the township would listen, whoever's there in that time that was proposing that change would listen to the feedback, and you make your determination at that time. But as it's proposed now, if we clean up that definition and add horses, just straight horses,
I don't have horses, you're gonna have to talk to Donna.
okay, sorry.
Horses, donkeys, mules.
Yeah, because they're all a different
Would it be
breed.
considered, would it all be covered under livestock?
No.
No.
Horses
Horses
aren't.
aren't livestock.
Well, livestock isn't in there, so you'd probably wanna put it in there. I really love my
You
cows,
can't
I don't wanna
consider,
take
you
a
can't
chance.
consider a horse livestock. That's
It's in this,
legal.
livestock
They
is in this
consider them
definition.
Yeah.
So she's right, livestock, horses, mules,
Donkeys,
buffalo.
True.
because a mule and a horse and a
Hey,
donkey
Michael?
are different.
Just not knowing.
It's just, there still leaves the door open. I've said it
Wait, one person is done.
Fast.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. There's still a lot of ifs and a lot of gray area. And if you leave that gray in there and those ifs in there and don't take it out and don't make it crystal clear, then it can and probably will be applied and interpreted, executively or legally as needed at the time. So you need to make it crystal clear, because farming activity should never have any restrictions. There should not be an opportunity for that to be lost in this community. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
that.
I mean, that's why we're
It
trying to
says,
work with
this
that.
whole thing says in the beginning to protect the integrity or the character of the community, and that's what this community is, that's what it always has been. So, this document should not change that in any way, shape, or form, or be able to in the future. Gotta think ahead, not current.
And silvicultural, looked up the definition, that I believe would cover the
Trees.
tree farm.
Okay, now I'll throw another one out there. How about bison? They're not livestock.
Elk,
You could use it.
Right, you can eat it, you can farm it.
And
marijuana
marijuana should never be considered as farming.
It's not, it's considered manufacturing. The growing of medical marijuana is considered manufacturing.
we got all kinds of weeds there.
Well, this is just a minute.
We'll wait.
Okay, sorry.
I think we're back to Eddie.
That was my question. What, is there something in the law that doesn't let the marijuana growers fall under agriculture? That was my
No.
question.
You're supposed to treat them the same as you treat any other manufacturing or industrial use.
That was one of the
well,
questions.
That was one of my questions. I actually have the entire law in front of me. And it actually covers a zoning, there's an actual zoning part within the law. And it says that, it says a grower processor shall meet the same municipal zoning and land use requirements as any other manufacturing, processing, and production facility that are located in the same zoning district. And the dispensary shall meet the same municipal zoning and land use requirements as other commercial facilities that are located in the same zoning. So whatever restrictions you put on, they have to follow. And that was one of my questions, because the setbacks and everything, that are written in the new zoning draft, do they match the other things? Because if they're different, we need to make sure that they follow what the state law says. That was one of my questions, because I actually printed the whole 42-page of the law out.
I've read it.
I know, you know what I mean?
Several
That's-
times.
Yeah, so I'm,
I have a question about that. Doesn't it have to be permitted somewhere?
It
Because
does.
we have it on our
It does.
thing as all conditional use. We don't have it as permitted anywhere.
It doesn't, that.
Conditional is
It's
permitted.
permitted.
Oh, okay, but we have it in agriculture and now you're saying that it's industrial?
Grower processors are considered, you have to treat them the same as you treat any other manufacturer or industrial use, not agricultural.
Okay, we have them conditional and agricultural mixed and then the dispensary and mixed.
So where do we permit, that would be the question, where do we permit any other kind of similar use, like?
What page you on here?
I'm just looking at the chart on 6.
And I noticed that the dispensary is allowed to sell out of their property. Like, they can actually allow the patients to come in and they can sell, right?
That's what a dispensary is.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And it's,
So-
I mean, generally, they say treat like a pharmacy.
Correct, yeah, I mean, you know what I mean? So, that, you know,
Industry is permitted in the agricultural, the village, and mixed use. Industry general is a conditional use, which that's probably what this would be. Industry general is a conditional use in agricultural, village, and mixed. So by treating it as a conditional use, we're treating it similarly.
So a dispensary can be in agriculture?
No, a
village-
dispensary can only be in the mixed zoning
Mixed.
district, mixed use zoning district. That's
Okay,
where
I got
dispensary
another
can be.
question. You know where I'm at. I'm all agriculture, which makes it kinda ludicrous in a way, because I'm agriculture now, but then I have an industrial building on me. I'm like a special case. So, I don't wanna be left all agriculture, and I don't wanna be all mixed.
I don't know, it's like creating another zone for you.
You know, I asked for, you know, the front should be the front, honestly, the front should be like mixed. And the back, I should be split in half, to be fair, I should be split in half, but where do you make that half? You know, where do you put that line? Other than, which is another reason why I'm subdividing too, you can make those front lots mixed.